Welcome to the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative. This is episode number 433. Today, I'm talking about what happens when it stops. Now let's dive in.
Have you already found business success but feel lonely at the top? Or do you feel like you're at a place in your business where others just don't get it? Or maybe you feel like you have to make yourself smaller in order for others to not feel less than. Or maybe just a little bit of all three? But with all that said, there is good news because I've been there and I see you, sister. I'm Taylor Bradford, the torchbearer of this podcast and sisterhood, and I'm here to lead and inspire you to stay purposely aligned in the success you have found and provide you with support, guidance, and a sisterhood to keep going. Because I do get it. Your business journey isn't meant to be traveled alone. So grab a notebook, your favorite pen, and a bevy, and let's dive into this together with this latest podcast episode. Welcome to the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative and me.
Hello, welcome to episode number 433. I am your host, Taylor Bradford. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we are talking about what happens when it stops, and I will get into what exactly I mean by that. But first, let's check out what's been going on in this week's social media headlines. Social media headline number one, Meta expands its paid verification program to business accounts. Now businesses will also be able to purchase a blue tick on Facebook and IG, and soon WhatsApp too. Social media headline number two, TikTok officially launches new in-stream labels for AI-generated content. The new labels will ensure users are aware when an image or video has been created or altered with AI. Social media headline number three, TikTok is exploring a partnership with Google to drive search traffic. The new experiment has seen some users shown Google search panels within TikTok search results. And that wraps up this week's social media headlines. So this week's episode, the actual topic of what happens when it stops, came about because a good friend of mine, her stepson, lost his wife and their 15-month-old in a car crash last week. And the literal world stopped for this family. And I know all too well, unfortunately, what happens when your world stops. I lost my mom when I was 24 years old. I lost my brother just shortly after my 30th birthday. And there's nothing in life that can prepare you for that kind of stop. Like absolutely nothing in life. But it got me thinking because hearing the stepson talk about his wife and their child just set this motion in my head going, what happens when it stops? Whether that's in life or your business. And I have to say that not all that long ago, my husband and I went to talk to a lawyer to kind of do some estate planning because we have no kids. It's just me and him. And as we were initially talking to the lawyer and talking about how we wanted our assets distributed, if, one or both of us were to go, like, what did that look like? And it was the first conversation. Now, my husband and I, we've been together 20 years. I believe we will be married 18 years this coming October. And in that amount of time, we've never had the conversation about what happens when our world stops. Like, what is the workflow to that, if we're going to talk in business terms? And so it really got us to thinking, and it was very interesting. Some of the things we were dead on the money, like equally yes in agreement, and then there were some things that we were not. And it was like, okay, we need to take a pause so that we can be on the same page with, this question and this question and this question with the answer that we can both agree to. So I think it's important, no matter where you are in your own life, that you do have a plan in place. And you need one for your life, but you also need one in your business, because what happens when your world stops? What happens to your business? Does somebody take over? Is there a chain of command? Or does it just cease? And then who communicates to your people if that's the case? And I know this is not a topic that people like to talk about. This is not a topic that people actively plan for. But in this moment, that's all I could think about is this young gentleman at 26, 27 years old just had his whole life stopped. He lost his wife and his child. It's just him. How is he expected to keep going? Just as if your world were to stop, how do you keep going? Is there a keep going in your world? What happens when your world stops? The flip side of this is what happens when it's time to move on? So maybe your world stopped, but it's something that you had control over because maybe it's just time to move on. When it comes to forks in the road, let me tell you, your heart always knows the answer. Your mind may be conflicted, but your heart absolutely knows. So if you get yourself into a situation with your own business and you're like, I don't know if I should keep on trucking. I don't know if I should just give up. I don't know if I should just stop. In your heart of hearts, you know the answer. Your mind might not be there yet, but your heart knows. And the saying is true, take a step back. What is the bigger picture? Things were meant to be. This is all in God's plan. Let me tell you, that is so easy to say to somebody. It is not easy to live in it because you're living with pain, you're living with grief, you're living with anger, you're living with rage when something in your world stops. And you could have these same emotions when it's time to do something else in business or in life. But let me say that just because something ends or something stops doesn't mean you are a failure or it is a failure. Hard work, dedication is never, ever, ever wasted. It's always counting towards your next thing, towards your next adventure, your next journey, your next endeavor. Everything we do is always serving our own evolution. Whether we can see that bigger picture or not, it is always serving us in a way that helps us move forward. You will always get lessons that you cannot get any other way without doing and being. So what happens if your world stops? What happens when it's time to move on? What's your exit strategy? Do you have one? Have you thought about one? Not until today did I ever think about what truly was my exit strategy out of anything that I do. Truly, I am the one who keeps all the balls in the air for all of the businesses that we have. I have all the passwords. I have all the bill pay set up. I do the marketing. I write the emails. I do the ordering. I set the schedule. I get the contracts signed. Now our salesmen in our roofing business get their own contracts signed, but I legitimately hold the reins, to everything. So what if something happens to me? My husband would be lost. So I need to plan for an exit. It may not be something that ever happens in the next 10, 20 years, or it may be something that we're like, all right, let's pull the exit book out. We're done. We want to have fun and retire and not worry about any of this anymore because we worked our butts off and now we can. But it would behoove me to actually put a strategy in place so that somebody could pick up the pieces and at least gracefully shut things down or work through whatever is left on the books. You know? What does that look like for you in your own life and for your business? Do people depend on you to bring in the bacon? Do people depend on you to be fed? Do people depend on you in other ways because you are in business for yourself? What does that look like for you? Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever decided, okay, today, instead of brain dumping, we're going to talk about the exit plan? So that if my world stops for whatever reason, somebody will know, or at least I will know. If I make the decision to pull the plug and say, you know what, no more, I already have my standard operating procedure on what to do next. But I just want to remind you, again, just because something ends or comes to a stop doesn't mean you failed. Everything that you did to get to where you are was on purpose. Hard work is never, ever, ever, ever wasted. It's part of the journey. And you will learn something every single time, whether you realize it or not. Because everything that we do is truly serving our evolution. Because where you started with whatever it is that you chose to launch and where you are now with whatever decision you've made that's either a pivot or you chose to move on or whatever it might be, maybe everything came to a stop. It is all part of the process. And let me remind you, when it comes to those forks in the road, your heart always knows. Your mind might just need a little catching up to do. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you'll consider sharing it out with somebody or leaving a review in the Apple Podcast platform. That would be fantastic. Until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Oh, wait, before I go, thank you truly for your support of my own business journey and this podcast, The Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur. If you know another entrepreneur who is in the same business trenches, who has already found success but might be feeling a bit lonely in their journey, my hope is that you'll share this podcast and this sisterhood with them. Because this, what we do day in and day out, isn't meant to be done alone. Speaking of lonely, if you're ready to squash the business journey loneliness, stop what you're doing right now and join the sisterhood. Visit bossgirlcreative.com/sisterhood. I can't wait to see you in there.